I had a call from my wife. Now I'm back to it. Huh? Now I don't know where I was, so maybe I should just start probably here. I'm going to start with Zeno. There was a guy named Zeno who came up with, there was a guy named Zeno who came up with some pretty interesting turtle race ideas, and in his book, I think it's entitled Fun with Arrows, a dichotometrical approach, he had one idea that pretty much disproved everything. It's pretty simple to explain. See, if you wanted to do something like maybe turn on a light in a room, you'd have to pass through the halfway point between you and the light, correct? In order to get to the halfway point, you'd have to go half of that distance, or 1/4 of the way to the light. In order to get to 1/4 the distance to that light, you'd have to pass through the 1/8 point, the 1/16 point, the 1/32 point, ad infinitum. That means forever. Before you could even start to move, you'd have to pass through infinite spaces. Before you get down to the basic building blocks of space, the atom, think about this. One might view that nucleus and electrons as its own solar system, as large as the universe itself. So you'd have to pass through the halfway point from the electrons to the nucleus, then a 4th, then a 16th, etc., etc., etc. Time could also be seen in light of this dichotomy. In order for 1 second to pass by, the second hand would have to move half the distance from the 12 noon position to the first second position on an old dial-faced clock, right? Or like that. You know, I have 60 seconds. First, stop it. Another take, 6, I think. You know, like 60 seconds. First, second, have I lost you yet? Then 1/4, 1/8, 1/32. Just trying to turn the light on. In a nutshell, space and time are logically impossible. Now this stumped scientist, Archimedes notwithstanding, for nearly 2,500 years. But they finally came up with a mathematical solution to the dichotomy, or the paradox as they like to mistakenly call it. The infinite numbers between 0 and 1 equal 1. And it's kind of a flimsy excuse the scientists came up with, if you ask me. But that's how they resolved it. This Zeno guy stumbled upon more than he knew, really, when he came up with the Fletcher's paradox, or better known as the arrow paradox. This one's a bit harder to understand, so bear with me. He's talking about motion, like we did before with the clock, but the context is a bit different. Zeno states that for motion to occur, an object must change the position which it occupies. He gives an example of an arrow or a flecha in light. He states that in any one durationless instant of time, the arrow is neither moving to where it is, nor to where it is not. It cannot move to where it is not, because no time elapses for it to move there. It cannot move to where it is, because it's already there. In other words, at every instant of time, there is no motion occurring. If everything is motionless at every instant, and time is entirely composed of instants, then motion is impossible. This thinking is pretty stupid at first glance, like the light switch. It's easy, you know, you just get up, you switch on the light. The second hand just moves, that's all. The arrow moves because the instants are stacked up together. All the instances between 0 and 1 equaling 1. Like those smart scientists added up, right? Well, wrong. Our universe is a three-dimensional universe, but we exist within 4 dimensions. The 4th dimension is time. In order for time to coalesce with this three-dimensional place, it needs to bridge our universe with the 4th dimension universe, or the time dimension. That's where time travel comes in. Zeno was 100% right. All the paradoxes, Aristotle's paradoxes too, all that stuff is impossible without another dimension to make it work. It's that dimension that's blocked out with the tempus machinae I mentioned earlier, the time machines that are in my bloodstream, see. By focusing solely on our 3 dimensions, these little robots force a shield to close the bridge shut between me and the time dimension, allowing my body to be blocked from time. and thus not aging while I am, as stated, neither moving to where I am nor to where I am not. I cannot move to where I am not because no time elapsed for me to move there. I wrote a rap song about that once, but I'll spare you that. Anyhow, I get this question of how time travel works all the time, so I tried to dumb it down for the sci-fi freaks as best I could. It really is the best. It's just best to say, hey, I got up and turned out the light. So what? All right, rule number 1 of time travel is that a body may not be in 2 places at one time. Of course, rules are meant to be broken, and the first rule doesn't really hold water. They should have said, when they made the rule, a person cannot be in 2 places at one time. Instead, I got to start that over. Rule number 1 of time travel is that a body may not be in 2 places at one time. Of course, rules are meant or made to be broken, and the first rule doesn't really hold water. They should have made the rule cannot be in 2 places at once instead of may not. As the rule stands, it just seems wishy-washy. I think that's why no one pays it any mind. Rule number 2 is that time travel is that one must not be so damn judgmental. You can judge so easily from your own culture, but in doing so, you're putting a spin on the other culture with what you've learned. Now, it's true, some people are just wrong. There's no way around it. The Oneidas, the team at Chernobyl, the Hale-Bops, some things just won't ever make any sense. But to judge them from outside their home context, it's dangerous because it assumes that you would be different in the same circumstance, which would have altered history and therefore is forbidden. Hey, I didn't make the rules, and they seem kind of stupid to me too, but hey, there's a good example of this right now. You. Now, this might rub you the wrong way, but you'd probably rather not hear this, but you folks right here and right now, you're the most hated of all cultures in my future. Yeah, you are so far from what seems right in the future that they somewhat seriously call this the wrong ages. What does everyone in the future hate about this time? Well, just about everything. They hate the way we eat, what we buy, what we waste, how we handle our families, how we teach, how we work, the way we birth, how we bury our dead. Just about everything. What we're doing to the land which we live, our disregard for future generations, our taste in art, architecture, entertainment all sorts, but mainly our TV shows and music. It's an all-around lifestyle prejudice going on. I heard about this time now and time again. Darn it. It's an all-around life. It's an all-around life. Do it again. It's an all-around lifestyle prejudice going on. I heard about this time and time again. I heard that this time and time again. One more time. It's an all-around lifestyle prejudice going on. I heard about this time and time again in my treks to the future, and I just had to visit. I found that everything they said was right, all the way down to contemporary sculpture and Lady Gaga. In light of this, I've stuck around to find out why you are this way. Not to try to change you guys, but out of a genuine curiosity. After a while, I can't explain it, but I just fell in love with you. You are the salt of the ages, the albatross pimple on the butt of the universe that just won't go away. But there's nothing else like you in forever. I am just infatuated by America in this time. Why? Well, it's the same reason you love Scarlett in Gone with the Wind, even when she sides with the carpetbaggers. When you see the spark of light in her, through her ignorance and self-involvement. When you see the pain she's gone through that didn't daunt her spirit but made her stronger. You see the potential and the actual achievement she's accomplished. Though at others' expense, you can't help but love the girl. You want to be Rhett Butler, even though you know he'll never save her and she doesn't need him anyway. But the desire stays the same. And the fact is, I've been everywhere else 1,000 times, but this is where I really want to be. Despite my strong protestations to my future peers, however, you still remain the scourge of all human history in the eyes of your progeny. The thing about you that is the most loathed of this time is the science, or rather the lack of scientific protocol. It is the need for having a written out diagram of something to be approved before the money is released. It just boggles the mind of people in the future.